The story begins with a van driving toward a White House, where the driver notices a young girl stepping outside as if she senses she's being watched. Suddenly, a strange man with an elongated face appears, telling her she's arrived too soon before launching toward her, sending her mysterious letters. Fast forward 20 years, and Lee Harker is now an FBI agent attending a meeting where she is partnered up for a case involving the search for a suspected serial killer. As they conduct house-to-house interviews, Lee starts feeling uneasy. She insists her partner call for backup, but he recklessly goes off on his own and is shot in the head. Lee, ready with her gun, enters the suspect's house, which is oddly wrapped in plastic. She makes her way upstairs, where the killer surprisingly surrenders without resistance. After the incident, Lee undergoes a sensory test, which she passes, and is introduced to Major Browning and Agent Carter, leaders of a special unit that investigates unusual cases. They brief her on a peculiar case involving a teacher and baseball coach who had gone insane and killed their families before turning the gun on themselves. What sets this case apart is the discovery of a coded letter next to the bodies, marking it as the 10th such case in 30 years, all signed by someone called *Longless** or *the Soul Collector* in the Spanish version. The team suspects a supernatural force is compelling heads of families to murder their wives and children. Lee initially doubts this theory, but they take her to the records room and ask how she knew the location of the killer. She explains that she felt a guiding hand on her shoulder, even though nothing could have indicated the culprit's presence from the outside. This revelation leads her to reconsider the case and start looking for connections among the victims. She discovers that each family had a child with a birthday on the 14th of their birth month, and all the murders occurred just days before the birthdays. As Lee continues to dig into the details, she listens to an emergency call from the most recent case. The father, sounding frantic, claimed to hear voices telling him that his daughter was not truly his, and that if he wanted to uncover her real identity, he had to do so while she was sleeping. And that in the middle of his speech, he begins to struggle with something that takes control of his body, leaving the phone to attack his family. At the same time, we see that while the police know that someone forces the parents to kill everyone, they never do. There are no signs of forced entry, no fingerprints or foreign hairs at the scene. Several hours later, Carter goes to wake the young woman to warn her that it's no use obsessing about the job and buys her a drink to let off some steam. The girl keeps trying to find a scientific version of events, imagining that the murderer could be someone who knows the families to let them into their homes without forcing the doors and who somehow forces the men to kill everyone without a trace. When Carter poses to him that perhaps the culprit was not present at the murders, Lee better thinks that the culprit was leaving instructions for a family member to follow his orders hours later. Lee takes Carter home, and the man takes the opportunity to introduce his wife Anna and daughter Ruby. The little girl gets attached to Lee. He takes her to his room, asking her if she always wanted to be a cop. But the girl says that when she was a child, she wanted to be an actress, and before going deeper, Anna implies that it is time to say goodbye, and the little girl asks Lee to come back for her birthday party. Lee returns to her house in the middle of the forest and tries to talk to her mother. After a somewhat awkward conversation, someone is heard knocking on the door, so the girl cuts the call so she can see who it is. When she goes out to face them, we see that it was just a distraction for someone to enter her house, and when she comes back, inside, the intruder leaves him a package with the order to open it on January 14th. In the second part, Reed forgets that there is someone inside his house and opens the package, discovering a drawing of an elongated face with a happy birthday card. One letter in code that, when deciphering, asks to read Chapter 13 of Apocalypse, dedicated to the arrival of the two beasts. I stood on the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, on his horns 10 diadems, and over their heads a blasphemous man. Along with another note, politely asked him to keep the pages a secret between the two of them. The next morning, the group is taken to see a new crime scene that had been going on for quite some time, but no one noticed the deaths because the family was going on vacation. And with the notes that the Soul Collector left, he translates the code that had the message. Nice try, but you missed. Lee becomes very frightened at the sight of the body of one of the family's daughters and decides to call his mother to try to console himself. The woman tells her that she shouldn't stay obsessed with an important case, and if she feels so bad, she should focus on the good things and go to church so she can protect herself from the devil. Lee investigates the necrologies of the murder supposedly forced by the devil until he reviews a book called The Circles of Hell, in which he sees that Satanists use an algorithm linear to mark important dates, so that they make triangle shapes, and when they put the marked dates of the family massacres, they see that the pattern repeats itself. Sweckhausen Dine, when talking to Carter, sees that a date is missing, and thanks to the fact that a daughter of the family survived one of the attacks in 1966, deduces that the name of the Collector of Souls comes because sometime before attacking the family is seen by one of the sons, which could make the surviving girls stay away of the house when it happened. It turns out that the girl named Carrie is confined in a psychiatric hospital. But before both policemen take the opportunity to go to the family farm to see if they find something, finding some crosses that lead them to the barn and discover that in the upper part there was a compartment between the boards that had a triangle similar to the one drawn by Lee, and also a doll almost the same as little Carrie. At the coroner's office, they see that the doll is made of porcelain, but that it has human hair on the outside and that it has a metal ball for a brain. It doesn't seem to have anything unusual, so they check the ball with a microphone. The feedback from the microphone leads Lee to look into the past when the soul collector met Carrie in a red room, while the coroner comments that in doing so, the doll whispered his ex-wife's name to him. Meanwhile, the soul collector enters a supermarket to bother the cashier, but she doesn't let him scare her off and asks her father to get him out of there, and the bastard throws a tantrum. The detectives go to the psychiatric hospital to see Carrie, and the attendant mentions that a day before someone also visited the girl, and this person registered under the name of Lee Harker on January 11. This caused the woman to wake up from a catatonic state that had trapped her for over 20 years. And when Lee asks why they didn't hold him or ask for ID, the guy says they don't give much importance to who enters the hospital, and that's why they never ask for IDs. Taking advantage of the fact that they are there, Lee goes to visit Carter, and the girl tells him that she recognizes her because she recently saw her go to his house. Lee asks if she remembers anything of what happened years ago, but the girl mentions that she remembers that the last few years were in total darkness, use, and that her mother was a very tired person who would never be content with her life. So her father took pity on her and killed her along with a priest who had gone to counsel them. Days before, a man brought her out of the darkness and asked her to do something important for someone living downstairs, to which she acceded thanks to what he did for her, adding that she would do everything he asked her to do, from jumping out the window to killing Lee, but she doesn't remember having a doll that looks like her, something that is not uncommon because Lee herself doesn't remember hers. Lee says that the girl woke up from catatonia when they found her doll, so it can be how they control a family member to kill everyone. This is not believed by the detective, saying that he finds it very strange that the clues now open up on their own since she joined the case, as Lee doesn't tell what was sent to her. The man tells her that on January 13, 1974, you sent just before the young girl's birthday, her mother called the police about a strange guy getting too close to her daughter, which makes her one of the soul collector's survivors. Seeing that Lee doesn't remember anything, asks her to go visit her mother to see if she knows anything related to the case. The girl leaves that same day, seeing that her mother left the door open and was waiting for her in her room. The woman asks her daughter if she is still praying, and she admits that she is not, because she is afraid to do so and that it is of no use anyway. Hearing what Lee said, her mother scoffs at her but agrees with her. Lee goes to cook something for the two of them, seeing that her mother keeps her nails, teeth, and hair from when she was a child, and out of how disturbing that is, she starts to have visions of a door. Remembering that when she was a child, her mother managed to get a day off to see her daughter on her birthday, and that's when she saw the guy approaching her daughter. That day, the girl tried to open the door, but it was locked. The woman denies it, but when Lee keeps insisting, comments to her that he won't say anything because they are both still alive, thanks to the fact that they forgot what they should forget, and that he did what was necessary to save them both. Lee goes up to her room and goes through a trunk where she finds several old photos, until she sees one featuring the soul collector, making her remember that she took the photo herself, and when her mother had kicked him out, the guy warned her that he would be back until he got what he wanted. Lee meets Carter and gives him the photo to be searched. Arresting him just as he was waiting for the bus when he is questioned, he admits his name is Dale Ferdinand Cobble, and that he wants to see Lee again because she's a friend of a friend and wants to sing to him because it will be his birthday very soon. Browning, Carter, and Lee are left alone and comment that the only evidence they have against him is that his handwriting was the one that made the notes and that he has several satanic writings, but you must make him confess to being arrested as more than an accomplice. Lee, maybe the guy is just an accomplice because it is likely that there is more than one soul collector and that he wrote the other one was manipulating the families to kill each other. The other two don't believe her, but since the inverted triangle is still missing a date, they let her talk to Kali. The guy is glad to see her again and implies that he's been watching her and is glad he was right instead of her. When Lee asks who she is, the guy says she's the one who gives the option to anyone who has her to accept her power and kill everyone she loves to self-destruct. To submit to his will, basically the doll, Lee asks him to tell him who his accomplice is, and the guy makes a scene in which he pretends to be a nun visiting Carrie's parents, commenting afterward that the work they did is going better than ever. And when the girl tells him that she won't do it anymore because she will go to jail, the guy says that his part is already done, but the rest will be in his hands. And that if he wants to know who his accomplice is so badly, well, let him ask his mother. She then pledges her allegiance to Satan and begins to kill herself by smashing her face into the table. Part 3. The girl celebrating her birthday. Instead of stopping him, Lee goes off into a corner to see what's going on until backup arrives and sees the guy's dead body. Carter says that Carrie threw herself off the hospital roof on Cobb Lee's orders and claimed to him because while this may have shown that she never needed an accomplice, it will never become clear why she left the guy to die. Brownie accompanies her mother to see if it is true that she knows who the accomplice is, and the girl asks to go alone to talk to her mother to turn herself in and doesn't realize that the woman saw them coming and used the stealth method to get her daughter into the house while she killed Browning. Lee catches a glimpse of her mother, and when she runs to stop her, she watches the woman shoot a doll identical to her as a child, while promising that she can now be free. When the doll is killed, black smoke billows out of Lee and her doll's head, knocking the young girl unconscious. Lee recalls that her mother had already explained to her as a child that Cable used the black metal balls to keep dark magic in the dolls to make a father kill his daughters. Since Lee didn't live with her father, he intended to kill both her mother and her, but her mother convinced him to spare their lives by offering to help him. Taking advantage of her role as a nurse affiliated with the church, she approached families dressed as a nun, pretending to deliver dolls as gifts from the church. One day, Lee wakes up to find her mother missing from home. The phone rings, and when she answers, a voice reminds her of Ruby's birthday. Alarmed, Lee grabs her mother's car and rushes to stop her. When she arrives, everything appears normal, and people tell her that Ruby is about to open her presents. Lee spots her mother there and tries to warn everyone, but no one listens. Suddenly, Lee's mother orders Carter to kill his wife and then their daughter. When the girl questions why, Lee's mother explains that the pact is meant to send them to hell if they don't obey, claiming everything is being done for her. Carter kills his wife, and as he moves to kill his daughter, Lee intervenes and kills him, preventing the murder. This enrages her mother, who attacks Lee. Tired of the demonic pacts, Lee fights back and kills her mother. As she attempts to destroy the cursed doll, her gun jams and she hears Cobb Lee singing Happy Birthday in her mind. Desperate, Lee takes Ruby to save her, but she doesn't realize the cycle has already begun again. The movie ends with this haunting realization. What do you think of this recap? Please drop all your thoughts in the comments section below. One like from you and maybe subscribing would be great support for us. And that's it for now. See you in the next videos.